Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. You've tuned in here to America's home for conservative, not bitter talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. You know, I'm going to break one of my rules. It's not really a rule. It's not a rule. I'm not a rule breaker. Well, maybe sometimes. But I'm not a rule breaker here today. I'm simply going to be talking about in more detail what I covered in the Todd Talk today, and that's this piece in the USA Today at usatoday.com. I'm going to give you the headline here and let you chew on this for just a moment. As soon as there we go. Is Trump in mental decline? He sounds far worse than Biden ever did. This is written by some clearly incapable journalist or opinion writer, whatever, op-ed. It's all the same at USA Today. In most places it is in the leftist media, but this is written by Rex Hupke, and I want to talk about this, my friends. I got other things in the stack of stuff as well, but this is where I want to start today, and we're going to get to this right off the top. But before I get down that path, I know, my friends, that you care about this country, but you can't fight for this country. You can't fight for America if you're not taking care of yourself. That's why I'm here to tell you about Soul Tea. Soul Tea is an all-natural, clinically proven supplement that lowers cholesterol safely. No prescriptions, no doctor visits, just 2 Soul Tea soft gels a day. It's not a drug, but it still works, folks, for many people. That's what the science has proven here. I take it myself, and I think that you should consider taking it as well. We need healthy, strong Americans, of course, to lead your family, to lead in your community, to lead at your church, whatever you're involved with. But we also need you pulling and pushing in the right direction for this great nation. Do not let high cholesterol slow you down, especially when it's something that you can do something about. Go to Soltea.com, S-O-L-T-E-A. Use my name, Todd, at the checkout, and you're going to save 50% on that first 3-month supply and get free shipping. Soltea.com, S-O-L-T-E-A. Promo code Todd. Friends, take care of your heart because I selfishly need you. We need you in the fight. But in all seriousness, my friends, of course, your family does, more importantly. All right, so let's look here at this piece in the USA Today. I found this. I stumbled upon this silly, ridiculous piece over the weekend. Again, the headline here says, "Is Trump in mental decline? He sounds far worse than Biden ever did." Sub-headline here, or whatever, teaser copy, whatever they call this, Trump seems to know little, and he has grown increasingly incoherent and rambling, often wholly detached from reality. Rex Hupke's words at USA Today, not mine. This was written on May the 4th, which of course was Sunday. May the 4th be with you. I always feel like I've got a sudden lisp or something when I say that. May the 4th be with you. That's in the past. That's when this was written. Here we go. For those who spent weeks, months, and even years howling about then-President Joe Biden's, quote, mental decline, let's take a quick read over 78-year-old current President Donald Trump's answers to recent interview questions. Time magazine spoke to Trump in the Oval Office, and he had this exchange. This is Time asking, this is according to a transcript here, so bear with me. Time magazine, or Time, says this, "Mr. President, you were showing us the paintings, the new paintings you have behind us, I should say. You put all these new portraits. One of them includes John Adams. John Adams said we're a government ruled by laws, not by men. Do you agree with that?" Trump responded. John Adams said that. Where was the painting? Time responded. It's right here. Of course, it is remarkable to me. First of all, I've watched Trump. You've watched Trump since 2015. Some of us may have watched Trump even before that, with just his media persona, things he did with The Apprentice, whatever else. This is Trump. Trump just says what's at top of mind, or Trump just responds quickly. This is just how Trump has always been. But what do they want you to think here? They want you to think that Trump says, or that Time says, hey, we saw these paintings. You just showed those paintings to us. One of those is of John Adams. John Adams said this. Do you agree with that? Trump, they want to make it sound like John Adams said what? Huh? Where was the painting? Listen, I'm amazed that people will go to this length. President Trump, now I'll read more of this, but President Trump routinely, on a regular basis, he has open cabinet meetings to the media. He has he'll take questions at virtually any time. This guy is in the media more in, I don't know exactly, I speak in hyperbole sometimes to make a point, so don't be too literal with me on this, but the guy spends more time in front of the media in a few days, a week, than Biden did in a month or more. Biden needed, remember his team, Biden's team would give him pictures of people in the room, media figures, and they would have their pictures and their name. And basically, this is who you're going to call on, Mr. President. That is nothing. That is nothing like what President Trump does. To compare these two men and to compare them and then conclude, as he did in his title here, that Trump sounds far worse than Biden ever did is preposterous. I would like to hear the audio of this if it exists. I'm pretty sure Trump wasn't saying, John Adams said what? Huh? What? Where's the painting? Mr. President, it's right there. No, that's not at all what was going on here. This is just how Trump communicates. This is how Trump communicates. He's always been like this. Maybe there was 20 paintings. Which one was the painting? Let's go look at it. Let's go talk. I don't know, but I can assure you, and you already know this, that the current president is in infinitely better cognitive shape than the former president. You got to be kidding me. They hid the guy. They hid the guy in 2020. That was the election was almost 5 years ago that Biden won. They hid him then. They hid him in 2024. They would put a cap on his day at 2 or 2:30, 3 p.m. on many days. We all saw what happened. We all saw what happened with our own eyes during that one presidential debate that President Trump and President Biden had back in July. And even after that debate, some in the press were trying to defend him. Were trying to say things like, well, he's rusty. He's not had people questioning him, being hard on him. Well, that's true, by the way, because the media was never hard on Joseph Robinette bribery. But nonetheless, they had excuses until they realized these excuses are no longer working. By the way, I would say anyone who gaslit you, regardless of their affiliation, regardless of who they work for, I would say that those folks have violated your trust and should never, absolutely never have the right to tell you what's going on in the media. They have proven themselves to be hacks, 100%. You could not have been an objective person in 2024, in 2020, well, I think 2020, but let's just say 2021, 2022. There's these books that are now coming out. I'm not going to venture into this just yet. I think I've got it in the stack of stuff here. I'm scrolling. I'm going to have to find it during the break. But basically, there was a report that people inside Biden's inner circle said, we don't have an Obama to come in and save us. Biden's hour, here it is. Let me open up this. This is at lifezet.com. Biden aides privately feared his decline. There's no Obama out there who's going to do it. Now we've got all these books coming out. We've got people out there who are admitting that Biden showed decline behind the scenes. We all know this. None of this is shocking. Whatever we saw, they saw at least 10 times more, maybe 20 times, maybe 50, maybe 100 times. I don't know. They saw significantly more about Biden's decline than we ever did. To compare that statement that I read to you a few minutes ago, Time's interview with Trump and some of the back and forth between him and the team at Time, to say that that's worse than Biden. Do you remember just some of the things that he would say? Do you remember him face planting multiple times? He face planted at the United States Air Force Academy. And no, that was not just because he was, blindsided by some terrain. He was on a flat stage. He face planted after a speech, a graduation speech, I believe it was. I don't mean stumbled. I mean flat down, boom, face to the ground. I remember him riding a bicycle. This was not too long into his presidency, maybe a year, possibly two. Stopped for the media. As he was stopping his bicycle, he was almost completely stopped. Stationary on a bicycle, not a stationary bike, but was stationary on a bicycle, puts his feet down and falls over. Now you could say Trump's not out there riding bike. Okay, fine. But this guy, his cognitive ability and his ability just to not, how many times did he fall going up the Air Force One steps? I believe they started using the shorter steps to give him fewer steps to stumble on. I mean, this was a real systematic problem, my friends, a problem everywhere that they looked. How many times did you hear him in his ever so rare interviews begin to give an answer and mentally freeze on the spot? Mentally freeze. And then he would say something like, I'm not going to go there, as though he just didn't want to attack Trump or whoever he was talking about, whatever he was talking about at the moment. That was his go-to. He had been trained. He had practiced. When I freeze up, I'm just going to say, I'm just not going to go there. I don't want to say any more about that. But it would come at the most awkward and inopportune times. This happened repeatedly. Who remembers when he was at the podium, the microphone? I don't know if this was a speech. I can't remember precisely what this was, but there was an audience. And he was talking about the Declaration of Independence. He said, we hold these truths to be self-evident. I don't even know if he spat out all those words, but he was trying to say those words. He forgot the rest of it. And then he said, the thing. Couldn't even come up with the name of the document itself. This is ridiculous to compare these two presidents and to conclude that Trump is far worse, Mr. Hupke. This is ridiculous. You might want to seek professional advice yourself, a treatment yourself, if this is your conclusion. Going back to his piece here, the magazine asked the president about border security. And he said this about the border wall. I built hundreds of miles of wall, and then Biden didn't want to. And we had an extra 100 miles that I could have put up because I ordered it as extra. I completed the wall. What I was doing, I wanted to build additional because it was working so well. So, the piece says, he completed the wall but still had more to build. The reality is that during his first term, Trump built 458 miles of wall along the nearly 2,000-mile U.S.-Mexico border, but most of that involved repairing existing barriers. I guess the columnist is suggesting here that walls don't work. I guess the columnist is suggesting here that the border was as secure under Biden as it was under Trump. Of course, we know for a fact, we experienced this in reality. We can see evidence of this all around us, that is simply not the case. Trump's memory is not good, he writes. Just read these interview transcripts and then this from the same interview. Trump said this: if this were Biden, well, first of all, he wouldn't do an interview because he was grossly incompetent. Time: we spoke to him last year, Mr. President. Huh? That was Mr. Trump, President Trump. Time responded, we spoke to him a year ago. Trump: how did he do? Time: you can read the interview yourself. Trump said, not too good. I did read the interview. He didn't do well. Clearly, the author writes here, Trump didn't read the interview. And even more clearly, Trump isn't making much sense these days. How can you conclude this? You don't have to listen. I understand. That this is the game. This is that they are grasping at straws. They are desperate. They have no leader in the Democrat Party. They have no vision in the Democrat Party. They have no hope, really, in the Democrat Party. And I've got some things on that as well today. But again, to conclude, to go out there and to put your name on a piece, Mr. Hupke, and to say that Trump is far worse than President Biden ever was, is absolutely absurd. It is ridiculous. You should be embarrassed to even look yourself in the mirror in the morning. I can't believe that a grown adult trying to be serious, wanting us to think he's serious, would write such words. I've got more. He's got more here, but you get the idea. That's how the left is trying. They're desperate. They are absolutely, positively desperate. This dovetails with a piece that I referenced a little bit earlier at Life Z. Biden aides privately feared decline. There's no Obama out there who's going to do it. This article is about a book that's coming soon, book written by someone who didn't tell the American people the concerns about Biden's cognitive abilities in 2024. But suddenly now, when it's time to become capitalist, no doubt during their term working with Biden, they were pushing socialist and anti-capitalist agendas and so forth. But nonetheless, the article says this: a forthcoming book has revealed that advisors to former President Joe Biden, that should be Joe Bribery, privately discussed having him take a cognitive test in early 2024, months before he withdrew from the presidential race, as reported by the New York Post. The internal debate reportedly took place in February amid growing concern over Biden's mental fitness and public perception. The book, which is entitled 2024 How Trump Retook the White House and the Democrats Lost America, is co-authored by reporters Tyler Page of the New York Times, Josh Dawsey of the Wall Street Journal, and Isaac Arnsdorf of the Washington Post. It is set for release in July and is one of several retrospectives chronicling the 2024 presidential election. I don't think these books deserve a purchase, my friends. If they really wanted to give us information it's not valuable now. I suppose there's potential value in realizing what was going on, and maybe for a future Democrat in the White House, maybe looking at this as ways to show folks, of course it'll never work this way, but maybe to say, hey, they did it before, they'll do it again. But the reality is this is simply telling us something now that's safe to tell us. If they really wanted to make waves, if they really wanted to entice someone like me, and I'm guessing the vast majority of you, they would have been writing these words prior to the 2024 election. But they didn't, at least prior to the time when Biden removed himself or was forced out of the race. Remember that too. The Democrats forced him out, didn't give their party a choice. They said, here's your candidate. That's how they're trying to save democracy, taking away choice from their own party. Here's your candidate, Kamala Harris. Shut up and vote for her. If you don't vote for her, you either hate women or you hate minorities, black people, Asian American people, that's the option you got. Get in line, vote for Kamala, Biden stepping aside. And then they had the audacity. Remember Nancy Pelosi? I don't have this soundbite, but it's out there. I promise you, I've played it on this program. Nancy Pelosi actually suggesting Biden deserved a place on Mount Rushmore, even seeming to suggest, as I listen to her words and I go back into my memory bank, seeming to suggest that he should not be the fifth president somehow added to Mount Rushmore. No. He should be replacing. He should be replacing one of the four presidents who are currently on Mount Rushmore. This is absurd. These folks are clowns. They are not to be taken seriously. They are in the business. They are in the business of making sure that they present their candidates in the best. And I don't have a problem with you trying to present your person, your candidate, in the best light. I do have a problem when that requires you, or you think it requires you, to make stuff up, to play a game, to pretend, to gaslight, to tell us, remember what happened when Biden's cognitive ability was there for all to see. There was a gradual coming to realization of that. And honestly, it wasn't about people coming to the realization on their own terms. No. That is not what happened. What happened was they realized that it was an untenable thing to try to defend Biden. That's what it was. It wasn't that they suddenly realized, man, this guy really isn't capable. That's not what happened. What they realized was that people were jumping ship on Joseph Biden and that they had reached a point where it was impossible to save the campaign. And they realized that this is 100% what happened. They realized that the people calling the shots in the Democrat Party, which is not the people that are out there casting the ballots. These are the people at the top of the party making decisions for the people who are voting Democrat, who are calling themselves Democrats and so forth around the country. And then they say that that's democracy somehow. They're saving democracy by forcing people to accept what they want to do. In fact, the Democrat Party, you want to look at an example of the oligarchy, look at how the Democrat Party is run. There you go. There's your saving America from oligarchy. Maybe if AOC and Bernie Sanders really wanted to do that, they would start by eliminating the Democrat Party, because that's where true oligarchy lives. That's where true oligarchy reigns, forcing the views of the few on the views of the many, giving people no choice. They realized that once enough of the oligarchs had jumped ship on Biden, it was an untenable, indefensible candidate, position, campaign, and so they all began to jump ship. It wasn't because they suddenly realized that. They didn't care. They didn't care what was true about Biden's condition. They cared about what they could convince people to do. They did what they thought was necessary when it was an indefensible candidate. That's exactly what happened. I've got to take a break, my friends. Quick time out. Back here in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. Second segment of today's first hour, talking here about this piece in the in USA Today at usatoday.com. Got to remember, I'm from the 80s. USA Today will forever be remembered as a print publication in my mind. I know everything's moved online. So if I say in, it's just because, hey, what do they say? I'm a boomer, I guess. Is that what you say if you're younger? Anyway, this is what we've been talking about. Journalist, an op-ed editorial there named Rex Hubke says that Trump is far worse than Biden ever was when it comes to cognitive abilities. That leads us to talk a little bit about what was happening inside the campaign, the Biden campaign, in 2024. They've written several books now. They want you to spend money to learn something that they could have told you about at any time when it was actually relevant to the decision at hand, who we were going to support and vote for in 2024. They did not do that. They violated all of our trust. I think these folks should never be trusted with anything. These journalists, they have more curiosity now about Biden's cognitive abilities than they ever did when he was ruling the free world. Do you realize how crazy? Remember who on this program? Remember who on this program months ago when Biden was kicked out of the Democrat election the campaign. Remember this. He was forced out. Make no mistake. Guy was forced out. And there was, Biden was not the candidate. Kamala was going to be the candidate. There was basically this fight over whether Biden was capable for being president in 2025 after the 2024 election. But I remember coming on this program and saying, listen, is this microphone on? This guy is making decisions for this country today. This is relevant. I remember Vivek Ramaswamy going out there and saying, we don't want to push this issue now. Listen, I understood politically what he was saying. We don't want to make Kamala president for a couple of months. Then she would technically be the incumbent. That creates a new set of circumstances. Now, people don't have to wonder what she would be like if she were president. Now she's actually in the presidential capacity. I understood that, but I also understood, politics aside, that we had a country that needed to be run, an executive branch that needed to be run by somebody, and none of us knew who that was. I mean, we knew who it was, but we didn't know who it was. They were not elected. It could not be proven that they were the ones making the decisions, but it wasn't Joseph Robinette bribery. It was not. These clowns that are writing these books today ignore all of that. They want you to forget that. They don't care that they put you and me and our children and our grandchildren and our futures at great risk because they did not want to admit that their party was in disarray, that Biden was incompetent and incapable. That also would have violated the deal that Democrats made with Biden for him to step aside. Again, the deal was, hey, we'll let you, this is my opinion, but I'm very, very convinced that this is reality. Listen, you got to step aside. We're pulling our support. You've got two options. Option one is you step aside, we praise you, we talk about putting you on Mount Rushmore, we talk about how wonderful of a president you've been, we do all of these things. That's option number one. Option number two, we do this the hard way. We push you out, you go kicking and screaming, we go after Hunter Biden, we don't stop Republicans from pursuing him if Trump wins. We might even pursue him if we win. There's nothing that's going to be sacred here. We're going to talk about you as being the problem, the reason the Democrats are in a losing position. Your legacy is going to be tainted. Your family name is going to be destroyed. Those were the options. Them were the choices, as they say out there. That is what the deal was, the dealio. And so Biden chose the easy way, or Jill did. Meanwhile, in the background, we've got this auto pen signing all sorts of things that Biden ostensibly knew nothing about. Who was giving the order for that? Trump mentions that a few times when he's out on doing interviews and so forth. These things are concerning. You want to talk about undermining our democracy? That's a perfect way to undermine our democracy, is to have someone who's unelected running the auto pen, making decisions for the president, the executive branch for this country. That seems to be incredibly undemocratic, but the left doesn't speak up about that. It also seems incredibly undemocratic to keep information hidden regarding the mental cognitive ability of the president of the United States, letting people make decisions on incorrect or incomplete information, which is what the left was perfectly content doing. And that's why this book says that aides and advisors to former President Joseph Robinette bribery privately discussed having him take a cognitive test, but that never happened. Now they've got these tell-all books because there's no consequence. But there should be consequences. But with the way the Americans are forgiving people, short memory and a lot of things as well. This won't be remembered in 2028 whenever they push out whoever the next candidate's going to be and tell us whatever other nonsense and garbage about how good this candidate is and how this candidate's going to save American democracy or whatever else they're going to tell us. Just remember that they are pre-programmed to hide and to deceive things from the American people. These are professional, deceiving, deceptive people, professional deceivers in the world of journalism. That's how I see it, and I would encourage you to look at it very much in the same way. More to get to here on the program as things unfold. Take a deep breath and talk to those of you who are in sales. Listen up. If you are in sales, are you where you want to be? Are you truly where you want to be? Are you generating the income that you want to generate? Are you having the freedom and the success? Are you able to provide solutions for your clients as you want to be? Are you in a position to get that promotion? Are you where you want to be? Whether you're struggling to close deals, whether you're just looking to sharpen your goals, my guess is if you're in sales, you're always looking to improve. Matt Easton and Easton University can absolutely help you improve. So they've got a training system that includes video training and also includes 2 weekly coaching calls where you can jump on with Matt, get your questions answered. It's a phenomenal system. It's great coaching. And I think the curriculum, the program is as good as anything that I've ever seen. This dates all the way back to Zig Ziglar's training that I was a part of 25 years ago. So on top of that, if you join Easton University through our link here, toddhuffshow.com/Easton, you're going to get a free bonus of having Matt jump on an introductory phone call with you to welcome you and to walk you through your situation and find out really where you need to start, where you need to focus the most attention. And he's uniquely equipped to help you do that, to hit the ground running. So toddhuffshow.com/Easton, that's where you can go. Again, toddhuffshow.com/Easton. Do not let this opportunity pass you by. Invest in yourselves, my friends. You are worth it. If you follow the system, it will 100%. I'm telling you, it will pay off. If you do what it tells you and you are consistent and you give it time, it will pay off. It's good stuff. All right. That being said, I'm looking here at where I want to go next in the stack of stuff. I think I want to start here, given where we are with the time. I'm at the end of this second segment. Third segment's close. The shortest of the 3 segments. I want to go here. New York Post. You may have seen this elsewhere. You may have seen this reported, talked about, whatever. Trump administration set to pay illegal immigrants $1,000 to self-deport, and DHS says it will save taxpayers a ton. So the Trump administration has started paying illegal immigrants $1,000 each to self-deport from the United States, and the DHS said it will save taxpayers up to $1 million per family. That's their estimate. That's not mine. I'm just telling you what it says. By the way, this reminds me, I've gotten some comments. I referenced in passing last week something about inflation. I said that inflation, it had been reported. In fact, it's on my website. There's an article that I posted. It was from sometime last week. That inflation was at 0. Now, pause. I understand that inflation, as reported by the government, is not at 0. I understand that. But I also understand that there are, there are tools out there. There's a tool called Trueflation. Trueflation. And it gives, now it's using blockchain technology and other things, but it's showing, I'm skimming here. I'm going to do this during the break because I'm out of time here, but I'm going to pull this up and clarify what I meant, because I didn't say this exactly right, or I didn't fill in all the information, but I just want to do this as I'm thinking about this. But I want to also talk about these illegal immigrants who are getting paid $1,000 to self-deport. We'll get to that on the other side of the break, my friends. Sit tight. You're listening to Conservative Not Bitter Talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. Now, I know I want to get back to this paying immigrants to self-deport, but in saying the Trump administration's numbers on how much this would save us, that's what they're reporting. I'm not insinuating that it's wrong, incorrect. I'm simply saying that that's what's being reported. Now, last week, actually it was on May 1st. Was that last week? I guess it was, yeah. Late last week. I referenced this just in passing. Headline at Breitbart, 100 days. Remember, this was Trump's first 100 days in office. Inflation falls to zero even as income and spending grow. This is reported at Breitbart. Inflation fell to zero in March. It's on the May 1st stack of stuff. A welcome reprieve after after it persisted inflation under President Biden and the best reading in nearly 5 years, even as consumer spending accelerated sharply and incomes rose rapidly, a powerful signal of economic improvement at the start of the Trump administration. The Federal Reserve's preferred inflation gauge, the Personal Consumption Expenditures Index, Price Index. So this is not the same, well, I'm just going to read this. It was flat in March, according to data revealed Wednesday by the Bureau of Economic Analysis. Core PCE, which strips out food and energy, was also unchanged, marking the tamest monthly inflation reading since early 2020. Compared with a year ago, the PCE index is up 2.3%, and the core index is up 3%, both below the month earlier figures. The Federal Reserve says it targets 2% inflation when making monetary policy. So this is, look, when you factor in the entire piece of the puzzle, what this article was suggesting was where we want inflation, where it needs, inflation is where the Fed wants it, the Federal Reserve wants it to be. President Donald Trump anticipated the fall in inflation at a rally Tuesday night in Michigan. Inflation is basically down and interest rates came down despite the fact that I have a Fed person who's not really doing a good job, but I won't say that, Trump said. Listen, there's also a site called Trueflation. So if you go and you look, the inflation number is not zero, but there are real-time sources, and you can dispute whether they're correct. I would also say it's also fair, given what we know about our government, to question what they've been telling us. I don't know that I trust anything. Sometimes it's incompetence. Sometimes it's, people literally are trying to deceive us. This government is a mess. It's being fixed, and it's not Trump's fault, but there's a lot of problems deep within the bowels of our federal government. So if you go to Trueflation and you think that that's a true gauge, I think it's at 1.35, 1.4%, not technically at zero, but being discussed as such, especially when referencing certain inflation numbers. So I just wanted to clear that up because I wanted to be correct, and was thinking about that as I was reading this number that Trump is saying. Listen, I'm just reporting it. I'm not saying it is or isn't $1 million per family that's saved if they are deported, and we're paying reportedly $1,000 to them now, each person, to self-deport from the United States. Immigrants, it says, can avoid arrest by the federal immigration agents if they choose to use the Trump administration's CBP Home app. The DHS will pay for commercial flights out of the U.S. and then send cash once they confirmed they've left. This is interesting. Remember, the CBP app was initially, the Biden administration was using this to help people get into the country and to expedite all that process to apply for asylum and all that. But here it's now being used to get people to self-deport. You want $1,000, you want to avoid arrest, use the app, self-deport. We'll give you $1,000 once you prove to us you're out of the country. And that's going to save the American taxpayers a lot of money. As this article says, DHS said it will save the taxpayers up to $1 million per family. Now, there's no doubt that there's a cost of illegal immigrants. We've been through this. Being here in this country, the amount, it's already impacted cities. We've seen this. We've seen many large cities in America, all cities, in fact, but large cities dealing with this, I would say, the most. It's impacted their bottom lines. They've had to shuffle around money. They've complained about this. They complained about this when Biden was president. All this has come to a screeching halt. We still have the problem of the people who are here, but we're not adding to the problem. They're also removing people that are already here, and they are deporting them. I also shared this, that the Biden administration was counting people that they turned away at the border as deported individuals. That's very deceptive. That was not a net fewer a number of people in this country because they had been deported by the Biden administration. Instead, they were simply people who were turned around at the border, who wouldn't have been at the border if we didn't have a wide open border. So we've been deceived for so long. There's lots of questions. We've had people that have told us for ages that illegal immigration doesn't cost the American taxpayer any money, which of course is preposterous. How can you have this many people coming into America using our services, potentially, according to DOJ, even getting benefits and so forth? How can we not say that this is costing the American cities and taxpayers money? Of course it costs money. It's ridiculous to suggest it doesn't. Anyway, I'm out of time this hour, my friends. Gotta wrap it up here. SDG.